Chapter 1. Coco arrives home on a sunny day. Mr. Collett's family decided to get a pet. After much thought, they settled on a parrot. They went to the pet store, and there they chose a small parrot named Coco. Coco had bright colors and bright eyes, but what caught the family's attention was his intelligence. Coco was amazingly able to imitate sounds, and he seemed to understand more than he showed. The family took Coco home, and he quickly became an integral part of their daily lives. Mr. Collett taught Coco new words every day, and his little daughter Layla loved playing with him. But no one expected how intelligent Coco really was. Chapter 2. Coco learns more. As the days passed, Coco began to show amazing skills. Not only was he able to imitate words, he began to learn how to use them in appropriate contexts. When a family member said, "Good morning," Coco would only respond with the same phrase in the morning. And if he heard the phone ring, he would say hello before any of the family members could respond. But it didn't stop there. Coco started learning how to open the cage by himself, and started roaming around the house freely. He didn't make any mess, but he enjoyed watching what the family members were doing, and he would repeat some of the phrases he heard in a funny way. Chapter 3. Coco helps the family one day. While Layla was playing in the garden, she tripped and fell. No one in the family was nearby, and Layla almost got hurt. But Coco was watching from the window of the house. Coco quickly flew towards the house and started screaming loudly, "Layla! Layla!" until he caught Mr. Collett's attention. Mr. Collett ran to the garden and found Layla on the ground. He quickly picked her up and took her inside the house to treat her wound. Everyone was grateful to Coco for alerting them in time. The family realized that Coco was not just a smart parrot, but a caring part of the family. Chapter 4. Coco saves the day. After Layla's incident, the family began to rely on Coco for some small things. Coco would let them know if someone forgot to close the door, or if there was something unusual in the house. One day, while everyone was sleeping at night, Coco started making strange noises. Mr. Collett woke up and went to see what was happening, only to discover that there was a water leak in the kitchen. Thanks to Coco's alert, Mr. Collett was able to stop the leak before it caused a flood in the house. The family began to rely on Coco more and more, and they knew that he was not only a smart parrot, but also a faithful guardian of the house. Chapter 5. Coco becomes popular. Stories about Coco began to spread among neighbors and friends. They would come to visit the family just to see the smart parrot and hear what he had learned. Even at school, Layla was proud to tell her classmates stories about Coco and his skills. One day, a TV presenter visited the family and interviewed Coco. Coco became famous in the neighborhood, and people started talking about the parrot who not only knew how to talk but also how to think. Chapter 6. Lessons Coco learned over time. Coco began to learn not only new words, but also their meanings. When someone said, "I love you" to Coco, she would respond with a gentle, "I love you too," in a sweet tone. When a family member was sad, Coco would walk up to them and say, "Don't be sad," to comfort them. Coco became an unexpected teacher for the family. Deep in a dense green forest, there was a great kingdom ruled by animals. The Jungle Kingdom was a place of peace and harmony, and every animal knew its place and played its part. In the center of this kingdom lived the lion Laith, who was known as the Just Lion. Laith had tremendous power, but he was even more known for his justice and wisdom. Laith was not just a king in name. He always sought to maintain order and justice among the animals. He did not favor any animal over another, and he always made his decisions based on facts, not emotions. He knew that the strength of a king lay in his justice, not just in his physical strength. One day, two animals came to Laith, the rabbit Ronnie and the fox Ziad. They both looked angry, and each one of them believed that he had been wronged. Ronnie said, "Oh, our just king, the fox Ziad stole a carrot from me that I had collected with difficulty from the field. It is mine and I worked hard to get it." Ziad quickly replied, "That is not true. I found the carrot lying on the ground, and there was no sign of its ownership. It cannot be the rabbit's if it is not in his possession. The situation was complicated, and Laith realized that he needed to think wisely to make the right decision. He called all the animals to a meeting in the forest square, where he would listen to both sides and decide based on what he thought was right. Laith began listening to Ronnie and Ziad, and also listened to the testimonies of the other animals who witnessed what had happened. It turned out that Ronnie had collected the carrot, but had left it for a moment while he searched for more food. Meanwhile, Ziad passed by and saw the carrot lying around and took it, thinking that it had no owner. After listening to all parties, Laith said, "It is clear that the carrot originally belonged to Ronnie, but he left it unprotected." On the other hand, Ziad took the carrot without making sure of its ownership. But the decision here should reflect justice. After thinking deeply, Laith said, "Ronnie, you should have protected your property and not left it in a place where any other animal could take it. And Ziad, you should have made sure that the carrot had no owner before you took it." Laith then decided to return the carrot to Ronnie, but he also ordered Ronnie to share half of the carrot with Ziad. Laith said, "This decision will teach you both a lesson about caution and fairness. Justice is not about getting everything or nothing, but about giving each person their due, taking into account the circumstances." Ronnie and Ziad accepted the decision with satisfaction, and peace returned to the forest. Everyone knew that Laith's decision was just, and that he did not favor any party over the other, but rather sought to achieve balance and truth. As the days passed, the story of Laith's justice spread throughout the forest, and the animals began to come to him to solve their problems. Laith always listened carefully, and he sought to achieve justice for everyone. But the day came when Laith faced the greatest challenge of his life. One day, a great dispute broke out between a group of large predatory animals over a fertile piece of land in the forest. The elephants wanted to use the land for grazing, while the other lions saw it as a suitable place for hunting. The issue was complicated, and each party believed that they were right. In an old big house, there lived a cat called Zarefa. Although her name suggests that she is kind, she was actually an evil cat. She was always looking for ways to cause chaos and scare the other animals in the house. But the one who suffered the most from her evil was the little mouse Farfour, who lived in a small hole next to the kitchen. Zarefa was always lying in wait for Farfour, trying to catch him whenever he came out of his hole. But she wasn't just trying to catch him to eat him. She enjoyed chasing him and scaring him. Farfour knew how evil she was, but he was a kind mouse. He didn't hurt anyone and tried to avoid problems as much as possible. Although Farfour was always running away from Zarefa, he helped everyone in the house. He would collect food scraps and carry them to his hole, but he would leave some scraps for the garden birds and the rabbits living in the backyard. He shared everything he found with others, and was loved by everyone because of his kindness. One night, while Farfour was looking for some food in the kitchen, he found the jar full of milk leaning on the edge of the table. He felt danger and ran towards the jar to prevent it from falling. He managed to push it to a safe place, but suddenly he felt the shadow of Zarefa approaching. He looked around in fear, but instead of running away, he looked at her with eyes full of kindness and said, "Zarefa, I know you want to hurt me, but I will never hurt you. Let's live in peace." Zarefa was not affected by Farfour's kind words. Instead, she decided to increase her evil. She planned a new plot to trap Farfour. The next morning, she left a large piece of cheese in the middle of the kitchen, and she knew that Farfour would not resist the temptation of the cheese. Zarefa watched from her hidden place, as she saw Farfour slowly approaching the cheese. But when he reached the cheese, he did not just take it for himself. Rather, he began distributing small pieces of it to his bird and rabbit friends. This act of kindness surprised Zarefa, and she did not expect Farfour to be so generous. One stormy night, while the wind was blowing and the rain was falling heavily, Zarefa heard a strange sound. She looked out of the kitchen window and saw that the basement window was open and the wind was pushing the leaves and branches inside. She ran to the basement to close the window, but she slipped and fell into a small hole. Zarefa tried to get out of the hole, but it was deep and her feet were slipping on the wet walls. She began to feel scared and cold. Suddenly, she heard a small voice saying, "Do you need help?" She looked up and saw Farfour standing on the edge of the hole. Despite everything Zarefa had done to Farfour, he did not hesitate to help her. He brought a small rope and threw it into the hole. Zarefa climbed out with Farfour's help until she got out to safety. It was a big surprise for Zarefa that the mouse she had been torturing all this time was the one who saved her. After that night, Zarefa began to think about her actions. She realized that evil had brought her nothing but loneliness and fear, while the kindness and love that Farfour had shown her were the reason for her survival. She began to feel ashamed of her previous actions, and decided to change herself. The next day, instead of chasing Farfour, Zarefa offered him a piece of cheese as a gift. Farfour was surprised but accepted the gift with a smile. Gradually, Zarefa began to change, and became more friendly and kind to the other animals in the house. Over time, Zarefa and Farfour became close friends. Zarefa protected Farfour from danger, and Farfour helped her gather food and take care of the house. Their relationship became a symbol of tolerance and change. In a small quiet village there lived a boy named Karim. Karim was known among his friends for his intelligence and shrewdness, but he had a bad habit. He was not polite in his dealings with others. Karim would speak harshly, would not say please or thank you, and would ignore the feelings of others. Although Karim was loved for his skills and intelligence, his impolite behavior bothered many. One day, Karim's teacher, Mrs. Amal, asked the students to prepare a group project. The students were divided into groups, and Karim found himself in a group with his classmates Sami, Lina, and Ahmed. Karim was enthusiastic, but he was not ready to work with his classmates. He began giving orders to everyone without asking for their opinions or listening to their ideas. Karim thought that his way was the best. While working on the project, Lina, Sami, and Ahmed began to feel frustrated with Karim's behavior. Sami said, "Karim, why don't we listen to each other's opinions? We can have good ideas too." But Karim replied sharply, "I know what I'm doing, just follow what I say." Lina felt offended and said, "Karim, being smart doesn't mean always being right. We should be polite to each other and cooperate." Karim ignored her words and continued to give orders. The project deadline was approaching, and the team hadn't accomplished much due to constant disagreements. On the last day, they gathered to work. Lina, Sami, and Ahmed felt that they were unable to cooperate with Karim. They decided to confront Karim frankly. Lina said, "Karim, we love working with you, but your behavior makes it difficult for us to communicate. We want to be one team and work together, but we should be polite and respect each other's opinions." Karim was surprised by their words and felt embarrassed. He realized that he was acting unkindly. He might have been the reason for the failure of the teamwork. At that moment, he decided to change. The next day, Karim came to school with a different face. He began his speech to his team by saying, "I apologize to you all. I was arrogant and rude. I value your opinions and want to hear your ideas." Karim's words had a great impact on his classmates, and they began to exchange ideas and work together as a team. Everyone began to make suggestions, and Karim listened carefully. Thanks to cooperation and mutual respect, the team was able to successfully complete the project. They gave a great presentation to the class. Everyone admired them. When it was time for applause, Karim stood up and said, "This success is thanks to all of us working together, and thank you for your patience with me." After submitting the project, Karim became a more popular person among his classmates. He learned that politeness and respect are the foundation of any successful relationship, and that real strength comes from teamwork. Karim began to say please and thank you in his speech, and began to listen carefully to others' opinions. Mrs. Amal saw the change in Karim and encouraged him, saying, "Karim, politeness is one of the most important values a person can have. Thanks to your change, you not only achieved success in the project, but you also became a person who inspires others. Karim became a role model at school. Everyone learned from him that politeness and respect do not only mean using nice words.